I am Nina Paley, and I made the film Sita Sings the Blues. And I used to be a full-time animator, and now I seem to be a full-time free culture activist. Those aren't mutually exclusive, though. I can be both. Hopefully I will combine them into one thing soon.
Can you just describe how Sita made it to Reel 13, how it became available for free, the sort of story that brought it to us?
So that is a long story. Last year I discovered Sita was illegal according to copyright laws, and rather than simply suppress the film or find $1 million, which was sort of difficult, I decided to be honest about what was going on, and I started writing about it on my blog. And I did a lot of research along with other people into copyright law, copyright extensions, and the consequences of that. And I realized that the laws have changed so radically in recent years that I was actually, if I released the film, I could, if someone wanted to enforce the most draconian aspects of the law, I could actually face 5 years in jail for showing people my film, technically. When I would tell people that, they'd say, oh, but that wouldn't happen. But it really bothered me that according to the laws, that we have laws passed that criminalize me and pretty much everyone I know, actually. And so I wrote about it. And, this information my struggle was fairly public, and other people wrote about it. And then Richard Siegmeister saw the mention of my blog entries on another blog, and he checked it out. And he very smartly realized that this would not be a problem on PBS affiliate, because there's an exception in copyright law that allows PBS stations to broadcast things without having to clear individual permissions. So he contacted me and said he was interested, and I said, great, sent him the film. And one thing led to another, and the rest is history.
What about the online aspect? Was that something that Richard came to you with, or how did that develop?
I don't remember. He started talking about broadcasting it, and I told him that I was... when we first met, I wasn't certain about the free release yet. But that idea was developing at the same time, and he suggested streaming it for free. Basically, I was amenable to anything he wanted to do, because when he approached me with the license, I said, well, this isn't like a normal license. You're actually free to do anything you want with this film. And that includes streaming it, that includes multiple broadcasts, anything you want to do. So I don't really remember if that's what made him decide to do that or what. But I don't know. I don't know whose idea it was first. I will say with the online release, what my breakthrough in thinking about it was when I realized that an online release would not preclude a cinema release. I had thought prior to this that if it's released online, it will never be shown on a big screen. And what I've found even in the last week is that the availability of the film online actually increases the demand for the 35mm prints in cinemas. But it's not a normal commercial release. These are art cinemas and rep houses and things like that, but that's always been the destination for the film.
Right, and that sort of brings me to my next question. When Sita premiered in Berlin, it was on 35mm, and judging from what I've read and sort of the punctuation in your responses to it being on 35, that's something you're really happy with.
Yes.
Now, so how does seeing it online in a 512 by 288 player, what's your reaction to that compared to the big screen?
Well, I think all films are better on the big screen in a dark room with other people. I do think that Sita holds up pretty well for online viewing. It's not the same experience, but a lot of it comes through. Hopefully people that see it online will say, hey, yeah, I'd like to see this in the theater if it's available.
And what sort of thoughts do you have about filmmaking and its relationship to the internet? I mean, for you, it's been a way to distribute your film. It's fast, it's cheap, there's a huge audience out there. But at the same time, it's not necessarily the ideal venue for a film. I mean, People don't like to sit in one place for 80 minutes. The screen is small, so it's sort of, there's this like contradiction. It's easy to market, but then it's not the best place.
Yeah, the internet is a tool. People actually use it to connect up with each other in real life, and they use it to buy things in real life and go to meetups in real life. And yeah, there are limits to it. It's not the destination. It's I'm going to say something really stupid and cliche, like, it's not the destination, it's the information superhighway. No, I wouldn't like it if that were the only way my film were available, nor would I like it if the only friends I could have were online friends. But it happens that I keep in touch with my friends online and then see them in real life. Like Carl and I emailed back and forth today. It's not a substitute for meeting in real life. But it facilitates that. Streaming isn't the end goal of this thing. The fact that there are all these high-res files on archive.org means that anybody anywhere can get them at any time, if they have a fast enough connection and if they're patient enough. So in a way, it's a way to preserve and archive the film. Also, if something happens, because it's completely free and people can share it with each other, it's a route around censorship. One of the issues with this film is nobody, as of yet, has distributed it in India because it could potentially provoke protests or be censored. And the fact that it's being freely shared means that that kind of censorship simply won't work. Someone who's determined will find a way to get it somehow, and I like that. And that would not be possible just with DVDs and videos and actual material things.
What has your reaction been from people who would be familiar
with the Ramayana?
Exactly.
The reaction's been all over the map. There are people that absolutely love it. There are people that say that they've always had a problem with the Ramayana because of Sita's character and her treatment, and they find Sita Sings the Blues an interesting way to look at that. And then there are people that are outraged by the very idea that I would treat this through a cartoon style and that Sita has these big round breasts and that she's singing jazz music and things like that. So there's a whole range of reactions to it. Mostly positive, though.
Do you remember anything anybody said specifically that's...
Well, it would be immodest. It would be immodest for me to repeat the wonderful praise people have given me.
Well, or the criticism, which would
the criticism. Let's see. The criticism, which is simply wrong. Nina Paley is a white Christian woman who hates Hindus. Nothing in that statement is true, except that I am a woman. But I'm not Christian. I love Hindus. White, well, fair of skin. I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, technically. I don't know. So yeah, that's an example. Most of the people, the fiercest critics of the film are people that haven't actually watched it, and they're mostly upset about the idea. On the other hand, if they do watch it, that probably won't change their minds because they come to it with a judgment that's not likely to be lifted.
Let's back up, and I know you've spoken about this a lot, but just so we have it in context, can you briefly describe the copyright situation of the music and sort of what got you into this whole mess in the first place?
Okay, so I want to be very clear. Annette Hanshaw's voice is not the problem. The actual recordings, the copyrights on the actual recordings were never renewed, and what that means is that they are not protected by federal copyright law. However, they are protected by New York state law, which means either that the film is not allowed to be released in New York State without permission, or I've gotten different legal opinions on this. It's either New York State or it's the United States, but outside the United States is fine. Which is why it's so great that 13 has that special status, because 13, because it being broadcast on 13 means that it can be broadcast right here in New York State and New York City, without any without breaking the law. The issue I'm dealing with, the biggest obstacle for me, has been the compositions that actually underlie her voice. And I know it's really confusing. Like, there's the recordings, and then there's what her voice is actually singing. What she's actually singing has proven to be a much bigger problem. All of those old songs are now controlled by corporations that they have this system in place. I should say that everybody, all of these licensors, they really are just doing their jobs. It is their job to charge money to use this stuff. And sync licenses are their business. This is their business model, and the system is so it's so inflexible that it's not like any individual who works within that system can affect any kind of change. And even if an individual in there realizes that this license system is prohibitive to independent filmmakers, there's not really anything they can do about that. That's if they have that realization in the first place. So from the licensor's point of view, they gave me a deal because they brought their price down from $15,000 to $26,000 a song to a mere $3,500 a song with all of these strings attached, which is a whole other story. This is just the most complicated. I mean, this is this is worse than rocket science, because rocket science at least makes sense. Copyright law doesn't. Yeah. So, what was the question? What is the issue with the songs? You know, while I was working on the film, student attorneys at the Glushko Samuelson Intellectual Property Law Clinic of American University were doing research on the recordings, and that's how they found out that the copyrights on the recordings were never renewed, and that the recordings were certainly free and clear outside the United States, but might be a problem either in the United States or in New York State specifically. That's what they found. And they said, but, you know, the compositions that underlie these are protected. And I didn't think that was so serious because I was aware of people recording covers of songs. What I didn't realize is that covers of songs are regulated by mechanical licenses, which are regulated by the government. So if you want to do a cover, if you want to release any of these songs, including Annette Hanshaw's version, on audio only, that cost is regulated by the government. You don't have to clear specific permission. You don't have to reach the rights holders. You just pay 9.1 cents to the Harry Fox Agency and you're done. And that's why there are so many covers of so many songs all over the place. Synchronization rights is the problem I'm facing. And synchronization rights is the right. It's weird that I'm using the term rights because what we're really talking about is restrictions. But sync rights are the right to use a song with an image in a fixed audiovisual work. There's some misunderstanding about this when I write about it. They think that the problem is that I've actually synchronized the character or synchronized the lips. It doesn't matter what's actually going on in the picture. If there's picture along with the music, whatever it is, even if it's just titles or a still, if it's in a fixed audiovisual work, that's subject to sync license fees, and those are not regulated by the government. And that's how these corporations came up with the bargain price of $15,000 to $26,000 a song. And that was bargain basement, by the way. That to them was actually a very low and reasonable price, but it would have amounted to about, well, probably more than $220,000, which is more than it cost to make the entire film. And, you know, online I've read things written about me like, oh, why was Nina so harsh? She should have been nicer to the licensors. And I did try, you know, I tried to approach them directly, or actually I should say my mom, who's the film's festival relations manager and who used to be a university administrator, so she has lots of business experience, and you know, she's the spreadsheet master, because there's a lot of spreadsheets involved with contacting these people. She tried, but if you're just a peasant, you get the runaround, and they really only pay attention to professionals. So I had to hire professional intermediaries, and that alone cost me lots and lots of money. Also, they would not negotiate actual release licenses until I paid them all $500 a song for a festival license. And a festival license is a promise that you will not make any money, that you will pay them $500 for the privilege and promise of not making any money off of the film and showing it non-commercially only. And they require that simply to talk to you. They will not negotiate anything until you pay them $500 up front. All of which is really a hardship for a real independent filmmaker. So where was I with this?
So why did you, I mean, what kept you going? It seems like at any point you could just forget it.
I couldn't say forget it. This is my art. This is my film. I wasn't going to kill it over this. I mean, life is short, right? Like, it's sort of my realization that life was short was what got me to make the film in the first place. And life is too short to kill your art because of some really stupid laws. I never felt like I was morally infringing. I mean, I knew what the history of the law was, and I knew that when these things were originally released, copyright terms were 28 years. Is that right? 28 years?
Back then, I can't remember exactly. Certainly shorter than it is today.
Oh yeah, much shorter than it is today. And then they were renewable for another term, but that meant at the very, very latest they were supposed to be in the public domain in the 80s. And I also am, long before this, I believed in a public domain because as an artist, I've used old clip art, these old woodcuts that Dover Books would publish. There's rubber stamps that are based on these things. People have built really beautiful new works using copyright-free public domain etchings and stuff, old newspaper art. And that's a beautiful thing. I really benefited from that, and I can see other artists have benefited from that, and I can see culture as a whole has benefited from that. And when I first encountered that stuff, I learned that we could use that stuff because their copyrights have expired. Well, copyright's been extended and extended and extended so that nothing after 1923 is in the public domain now. And this is really impoverishing our shared culture.
At what point will you be satisfied that Sita has traveled as far as it can go? I mean, where do you see it?
Where do I see it going? I don't know. It's really up to the audience now. I'm trying to... Every day is an opportunity for me to practice detachment. Because it is totally up to the audience now. And, what would make me happiest is that it remains in circulation, forever. I don't think it'll be, it's new now, so it's making sort of a splash right now, and I don't know when this sort of upward curve is going to taper off. It has to eventually, or maybe it will go up and down and up and down. But hopefully it will stay in the shared culture, and people will remix it, and hopefully they'll share it before they... my real hope is that they won't start remixing it too much until it's been sort of assimilated into everyone's mind. There will reach a point, hopefully, if I'm lucky, where people are sick of it. And then they can start cutting it up and using it as the basis for jokes. It will be so much of a cliche that they'll refer to it and change it. That's the dream, right? To have it become that ubiquitous. I have no idea how far it's going to actually go, though. And at this point, I'm really so glad that I've taken it on this free path rather than a regular commercial path. Because already I think it's gone farther. Just in the last week, I think it's gone farther being free than it would have being protected.
So the commercial side of it doesn't matter to you. I mean, what matters is viewers watching it. Like if you never, you have grants.
Well, no, I'm not living on grants. I'm in debt. So I totally need money, and I should make it very clear that I like money. Everyone likes money. Money's really nice. I don't like extortion, and I don't think that locking up culture is the way to make money. I mean, the fact is, this isn't like something I'm doing out of the goodness of my heart because I'm such a nice person. I actually realized that I could make more money if I freed the film than if it went through commercial release. No matter what, I knew I would get more viewers. But the more the film circulates for free, the more demand there is for DVDs, posters, T-shirts, whatever. All these, well, let me back up a bit. Content is an unlimited resource. As long as people can copy it for almost nothing, it's basically free. Zeros and ones are basically free. But there are still containers of that content which are limited, like actual DVDs. That's an actual, piece of plastic. We don't have like a DVD replicator that will actually, it's not like a Star Trek transformer thing where you have an object here and you can push a button and then that same object appears here. The data on that DVD is free, but the DVD itself is not free. And same thing with the t-shirt. This logo here is free. Anybody can copy it. It's on archive.org. You can make as much merchandise as you want. But this actual t-shirt is a limited thing. It's made of cotton. It belongs to me, and I paid for it. So in my experience, my theory actually was that if you simply allow the free stuff to be free, that will increase the value of the limited stuff. And in the past week, this has proven to be true, because people are watching the streaming version on Channel 13, and then they're emailing me and saying, I must have this on DVD. How can I buy the DVD? The DVD being limited, and the streaming version being unlimited. So, I had a hunch that this was true and that this would actually be a much better way to make money. And right now I'm just scrambling to produce the DVDs and get some merchandise made so that I can start, satisfying the demand for this stuff. But yes, of course I want money. Also, I really appreciate the donations. And I am still, I'm still in debt from this whole thing. There's the $50,000 to pay off the licensors, and then, the film cost, if you include my living expenses for those 5 years, it costs $200,000 to make, and I haven't even begun to pay myself back for that. And there are new projects that I'd like to make as well, and since I'm in debt now, I'm mostly focusing on getting the Sita release fully underway and getting my debts paid off, hopefully. So yeah, I want money, but I really think that releasing the content for free is the way to make more money.
So what do you want to work on next?
I want to work on a bunch of short cartoons about free speech and free expression and free culture. And that goes back to what I first said, where I'm an animator and a free culture activist. So I want to combine these things until I burn out on the free culture activism, because I'm so passionate about it right now. It almost keeps me up at night. I've got things to say. That's how all my art's been. I've got a song in my heart and it's got to get out. And, I just need to express these ideas and send them into the world, and then I'll be on to the next passion project, whatever that is.
So as a free culture activist, can you give us any sort of concrete peek into these short ideas?
Oh, sure. I am trying to bring the laws of physics back into the discussion of copyright law. So some of it is counteracting the media industries, the big media industries' propaganda of recent years. They have been telling everyone that copying is stealing, or they say downloading is stealing, downloading movies is stealing. Well, downloading Sita isn't stealing. Downloading Sita is actually beneficial to me. I know I'm getting off track here, but that's something I really want to impart on people. If you watch my film, you're helping me. You're helping the film by watching it. You're not stealing. You're not hurting me. You're not taking anything away from me. You're helping me. And then if you tell people about it, you're helping the film even more. If you send a donation, you're helping me even more. It's all good. Sharing culture is actually really good for everyone, including the artist, especially the artist. So it's definitely not stealing.